In this video, I'll be discussing the quality of 3 of Tilray's major brands, as I see them. And not just their present, but also their past, and what that may say about their management and their likely future. Probably the most success they've had thus far has been with their Good Supply brand, and mostly in their early days, because they were one of the first to offer a cheap product that at least burned cleanly. It was kind of dry and crusty, so it wasn't that great, but it did burn cleanly and it was cheap, so it did sell. These days there are a lot of products, even at that price point, which are fairly decent, and if you want to pay a couple of bucks more, you can get something far superior, in my opinion. So, it's probably less popular than it used to be, but it probably does sell to some extent still. But to sum up their progress, I would say that a few years ago, if you asked bud tenders what their most popular brands were, they may say Good Supply. These days they're unlikely to be included on any such list. Broken Coast is a very different brand. It's far more expensive than Good Supply, but in my opinion at least, it's not even better. It's actually worse in some ways. My experience with them has always been that it seems to be loaded with nutrients, meaning it tastes a little bit dirty and it doesn't burn very well. Based on my recollection, that was more true in the early days, but I've tried it twice in recent weeks for the purpose of this channel, and I wasn't impressed either time. First I tried their Holy Grail Kush, and I just didn't like it at all, and didn't even finish it. But in speaking to a couple of bud tenders actually, I was told Amnesia Haze is better, so I tried it, and it did smell better and it looked better, but it didn't burn very well still, so I still wasn't impressed. And one thing I must admit is that despite how I feel about it, bud tenders over the years have told me a few times that they do like Broken Coast. Some may be telling me what they think I want to hear, but even ones that I know and trust to tell me the truth about their opinion have said that they like Broken Coast. However, they do usually say that it doesn't sell very well. One recently told me that it usually turns into old inventory, which is probably a significant factor in Tilray's years-long market share decline. Riff is another of their brands, which is quite different from the first two. In the early days, I felt that they were marginally better than Good Supply at best, but definitely more pricey, so not very interesting. However, for the purpose of this channel, I tried them twice recently, 2 different strains, and while one strain I didn't like, the other strain I did like, in both cases, I really appreciated the grow quality and how much it's improved. I'd go so far as to say that despite the fact that at the mid-price point, which is where Riff sells, there is a lot of very stiff competition, they are stiff competition themselves. And despite the fact that Broken Coast is more expensive than Riff, Riff is definitely far superior in terms of quality. How is that possible when they're all under the same parent company? It's because they are grown in different facilities by different people. And while some companies appear to get their growers together and learn from each other, Tilray doesn't seem to do that. They don't seem to be very concerned with improving and learning from each other and improving as a company as a whole. And it appears as though Riff took it upon themselves to improve, but the upper management is so disconnected from their consumer that they didn't even notice. Otherwise, why is Broken Coast still terrible? So it appears as though Tilray does have some growing skill within them, but they're not really taking full advantage of it. And they're not going to get much help from Hexo because their brands can be summed up quite quickly as low quality, low price, to the point where their revenue is cut in half over the last 12 months. So can Tilray learn from their best and spread it throughout their company? So far they've given no indication that they're doing so.